Planning to visit Japan soon? Here are 10 things you should avoid doing. So you're all set for your Japanese adventure, but wait, it's important to understand the cultural norms of any new destination. In today's video, we'll be exploring 10 faux pas to avoid when visiting Japan, from temple etiquette to chopstick manners, and even the unspoken rules of queuing. So before you board that plane, let's ensure your journey is as smooth and enjoyable as possible. Let's dive into the list and make sure your trip to Japan is as smooth and enjoyable as possible. First on our list, disrespecting etiquette in temples and shrines. Temples and shrines hold a special place in the heart of Japan. They are not just architectural marvels, but also symbols of the country's rich cultural and spiritual heritage. The tranquility that envelops these sacred sites is a reflection of the respect and reverence they command. And this respect extends to certain etiquettes that visitors are expected to follow. Before entering a temple or a shrine, it's customary to cleanse yourself by washing your hands and mouth at the purification fountain. This ritual, known as tamizu, symbolizes the purification of the mind and body. Inside, remember to remove your shoes, as it's considered disrespectful to wear them. And lastly, maintain silence or speak in hushed tones to preserve the serene atmosphere. Disrupting the peace with loud voices is a big no-no. Remember, respect is key when visiting these sacred places. Secondly, ignoring chopstick etiquette. In Japan, chopsticks are more than just utensils. They're a symbol of tradition and respect. Let's delve into a few do's and don'ts. Never stick your chopsticks upright in your rice. This resembles a funeral ritual and is considered highly disrespectful. Always lay them down on a chopstick rest or the side of your plate when not in use. Passing food from chopstick to chopstick is another faux pas. It's reminiscent of a ceremonial practice used in funerals, so it's best to avoid this. Instead, place the food directly on the recipient's plate. And remember, chopsticks aren't a pointing device. Waving them around or pointing at people is considered impolite. These etiquette rules may seem complex, but they're rooted in centuries of tradition and respect for the dining experience. So when you're digging into your sushi or ramen, remember these guidelines. Mastering chopstick etiquette will not only impress the locals, but also enhance your dining experience. Third, not following queue rules. Japan is a nation that thrives on order and respect for others, and nowhere is this more evident than in their strict adherence to queue rules. Whether it's waiting for the train, buying tickets for a popular attraction, or simply grabbing a bite at a bustling ramen shop, orderly queues are a common sight. The Japanese appreciate and respect the concept of first come, first serve. So skipping the queue is a big no-no. It's seen as disrespectful and can be considered a direct violation of societal norms. Remember, in Japan, everyone waits their turn. It's not just about keeping things orderly, it's also a testament to the country's respect for fairness and equality. So when you're in Japan, make sure you follow the queue rules. Patience and respect for others are essential in Japan, especially when it comes to queues. Fourth, loud speaking and phone use on public transport. In the hustle and bustle of Japan's cities, public transportation offers a surprising oasis of calm. From subways to buses, the atmosphere is typically quiet, with passengers respecting the unwritten rule of maintaining peace. Speaking loudly or engaging in boisterous laughter is generally seen as disruptive. So if you're planning to catch up on gossip with your travel buddy, you might want to keep your voices down. Similarly, using mobile phones can be a bit of a tricky business. While it's not prohibited, it's considered impolite to talk on the phone during your commute. Texting or surfing the web is acceptable, as long as your phone is on silent mode and your activities don't disturb others. Remember, in Japan, public transportation isn't just a means to get from point A to point B, it's also a place where peace is highly valued. Maintaining a peaceful environment is a shared responsibility on public transport. Fifth on our list, tipping. Now this is a practice that many of us are accustomed to, especially those hailing from Western countries. However, when in Japan, you might want to rethink this gesture of gratitude. It's not that they don't appreciate the sentiment, but tipping simply isn't customary in Japan. In fact, it can sometimes be seen as insulting. You might be wondering, how so? Well, the Japanese culture is heavily based on respect and integrity. They believe in providing the best service they can, not for an extra tip, but because it is their duty and responsibility. Handing over a tip might be interpreted as suggesting that they need additional incentive to do their job well. This can cause discomfort and even embarrassment. So when dining out, getting a haircut, or taking a taxi ride, remember that the price you see is the total price. No need to leave a few extra coins or bills. When in Japan, hold on to your change. Tipping isn't necessary. Sixth, blowing your nose in public. In the hustle and bustle of everyday life, it's natural to reach for a tissue and blow your nose when needed. But in Japan, this seemingly innocent act can be seen as a breach of decorum. You see, the Japanese culture places a high value on personal space and privacy. This extends to personal hygiene practices like blowing your nose. In Japan, it's considered impolite to blow your nose in public. It's not just about the noise, but also about the visual. The act is viewed as unclean and a bit too personal to be done in the open. This cultural norm is deeply ingrained, arising from a desire to maintain harmony and respect for others' comfort in shared spaces. So when you feel a sneeze coming on or your nose getting stuffy, what should you do? The best course of action is to excuse yourself and find a private place, like a restroom. This way, you respect cultural norms while addressing your needs. When you need to blow your nose, find a private place or use the restroom. Seventh, walking and eating. Now, this might come as a surprise because in many parts of the world, it's perfectly acceptable to grab a snack on the go. But in Japan, it's considered rude to walk and eat at the same time. This cultural norm is deeply rooted in the Japanese philosophy of mindfulness and appreciation. When you're eating, you're meant to focus solely on the food and savor every bite. It's a moment to appreciate the effort that went into preparing the meal and to enjoy the flavors bursting in your mouth. So, if you find yourself with a delicious treat in hand, resist the urge to nibble while you explore. Look for a bench or a quiet corner where you can sit down, relax, and relish your meal. Not only does this show respect for the local customs, it also allows you to truly savor the culinary delights that Japan has to offer. Take the time to sit down and enjoy your meal. It's both polite and part of the dining experience. Eighth, not removing your shoes indoors. Now, this might seem like a minor thing, but in Japan, it's a significant part of their culture. In Japanese tradition, the home is considered a clean and sacred space. To maintain this cleanliness, it's customary to remove footwear before entering. This practice isn't just limited to homes, but extends to certain establishments like traditional restaurants, ryokans, and temples as well. Why is this so important? Well, the Japanese are keen on separating the outdoor environment, which they consider unclean, from the indoor space. So, when you walk into a building with your shoes on, it's seen as bringing dirt and impurities inside, which is disrespectful. But how will you know when to do it? Often you'll see a raised platform at the entrance or a shoe cupboard. That's your cue. So remember, when in doubt, look for a place to store shoes near the entrance. Ninth, displaying tattoos in public baths. In Japan, tattoos are more than just body art. They're loaded with historical significance and cultural implications. Traditionally, tattoos have been associated with the Yakuza, Japan's infamous organized crime syndicate. This association has led to a societal stigma against tattoos, causing many public baths and hot springs, known as onsen, to implement strict policies against them. Even today, despite the rising global popularity of tattoos, this cultural perspective persists. From traditional neighborhood sento baths to luxury onsen resorts in the countryside, it's not uncommon to find signage explicitly prohibiting tattooed individuals from entering bathing areas. However, times are changing, and some establishments are becoming more lenient, especially towards foreign visitors who may not be aware of these cultural nuances. But it's not a universal shift. Therefore, to avoid any awkward situations or potential embarrassment, it's always a good idea to check the rules before entering a public bath. Lastly, ignoring personal space. This is a final faux pas that travelers often overlook. Japan is a bustling country, especially in its urban hubs. Amid the hustle and bustle, it's crucial to respect the personal space of others. Whether you find yourself packed in a crowded train during rush hour or waiting in a cramped elevator, remember to give your neighbor their due space. It's not just about comfort, it's about respect. This respect for personal space is a reflection of the broader Japanese culture, where harmony and consideration for others are deeply valued. It's a simple act, but it speaks volumes about your understanding and respect for Japanese norms and values. So, when you embark on your journey to the land of the rising sun, keep these social norms in mind. They may seem small, but they're significant in making your trip smooth and memorable. Remember, understanding and respecting local customs and traditions will make your trip to Japan more enjoyable and rewarding. So, let's quickly recap what not to do in Japan. Remember to respect the etiquette at temples and shrines, mind your chopstick manners, and always follow queue rules. Keep your voices down and avoid phone use on public transport. Tipping isn't customary, and neither is blowing your nose in public. Refrain from walking while eating and always remove your shoes indoors. Lastly, be discreet about tattoos in public baths. Now that you know what to avoid, you're ready for an unforgettable trip to Japan. Safe travels!